Aloha everyone. In this video, we're going to drive through the middle of Lahaina town, including a portion of Front Street that was just opened up. We're also going to drive through a couple neighborhoods so you can see how many homes have started to rebuild with your own eyes. Along the way, I'll share some key updates on our recovery from the Maui fires so you know the truth about what is really happening in Lahaina. Let's go for a drive. We're going to start the tour right next to the beach access entrance of Baby Beach, looking towards Front Street. By the way, if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll show you what Baby Beach looks like on foot. Straight ahead on the left is Kahoma Village, and on the right is where Front Street apartments were prior to the fire. From here, we're going to turn right onto Front Street and drive south towards the middle of town. This part of Front Street was closed off to the public ever since the fire until just a couple of weeks ago. So this is the first time I've been able to show this area from the ground in any of my videos. On the left, you'll see the shell of the historical Seamen's Hospital Museum. This is also where the Lahaina Residential and Channel House condos were located. We're coming up on the intersection of Front Street and Baker Street, and just past that is where the Lahaina United Methodist Church was located prior to the fire. By the way, I'm going to share timestamps in the description to all the areas that we'll be driving through in this video. So if you're short on time, you can jump to the parts of town that are of most interest to you. On the left-hand side now, we're passing the area that held the outlets of Maui. Straight ahead is the intersection of Front Street and Papala'ua Street. This is as far as we can go in this direction on Front Street, so we're going to turn down Papala'ua Street, and you see the building that held Foodland Grocery Store survived the fire and is still standing. On the right-hand side now is where the Lahaina Post Office and the Bank of Hawaii buildings were prior to the fire. Off in the distance, you see the Pioneer Mill smokestack. We'll be driving by it later in the video as we drive up into the Lahainaluna Neighborhood. On the right-hand side, we're passing the McDonald's building that survived the fire, and we're coming up on the intersection of Waine'e Street. Straight ahead, you see a steady flow of cars driving by on the Hono'api'ilani Highway, but we're going to turn on to Waine'e Street and continue heading south. So it's almost been 1.5 years since the devastating fires here in Lahaina, but I have to mention that as I record this video, firefighters in the Los Angeles area are still working to contain the fires in California. My heart truly goes out to everyone affected by the LA fires, as we know from personal experience here in Lahaina what a difficult time it is. As a way to help Californians, the governor of Hawaii suggested that the people who lost their homes in the LA fires could use hotels in Hawaii as temporary places. This idea did receive some criticism from Maui residents, and we'll talk more about that later in the video. The building with the red roof on the left is the Maria Lanakila Catholic Church that survived the fire. I'm happy to report that this church did reopen just a couple months ago. We're now at the intersection at Dickinson Street, and coming up on the left is where the Nalu condo complex was located prior to the fire. Nalu is kind of hard to see from the road, so up ahead a little ways, we're going to turn into the parking lot to take a closer look. Nalu was a very popular vacation rental community prior to the fire. With most of the buildings gone in this area, it can be hard to recognize different locations. But if you look closely as we head back towards the street, you will notice Nalu's unique parking lot pavement design and texture. So I already mentioned the governor's idea to temporarily house the Los Angeles fire survivors in hotels here in Hawaii, just like the hotels did on Maui after the Lahaina fire. He suggested that FEMA could cover the cost of the hotel stays and that it could be helpful for the hotels that are experiencing lower than usual occupancy rates. There has been some pushback on this idea from residents here who feel that all available resources should be used to help the people of Lahaina. The governor went on to say from there that the people of Lahaina made it clear that they don't want to be housed in hotels anymore, as they desire more long-term housing. I can see both sides of this argument, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Is Governor Green's suggestion a good one, or is it misguided? Let me know in the comment section below. By the way, we just passed the intersection at Prison Street. And on the right-hand side, we'll be passing an old Shin Buddhist temple. And coming up ahead, we'll be passing an area that held 2 other churches that survived the fire. We're now coming up on the intersection at Waianae and Shaw Street. And from here, we're going to turn onto Shaw Street and head back towards Front Street to see another portion of Front Street that has been opened up. The large mid-rise building that you can't miss straight ahead is the Lahaina Shores condominium complex. Now, Lahaina Shores is in the process of doing some fire remediation, but we do anticipate that it will be able to reopen by June if everything goes as planned. And straight ahead now is the location that held the shops at 505 Front Street before we lost all the buildings to the fire. As we turn back onto Front Street, you'll get a really good view of the Lahaina Shores complex. A few weeks ago, I released a video giving more details on Lahaina Shores, and there are a few condos currently for sale in the building. If you're curious to know more about Lahaina Shores, check out that video, and I'll share a link to more information in the description. Straight ahead on the left, you'll see a home that is in progress of being rebuilt. So despite what some people might try to tell you, there absolutely have been some building permits approved in this part of Lahaina. That being said, I'm sure you've noticed that there's very little construction activity in this area. We'll see a lot more progress later in the video when we explore the Lahainaluna and Wahikuli neighborhoods. Since this area is closer to the ocean, it's in a special management area, also known as SMA. The SMA designation creates an extra layer of review for receiving building permits, which has slowed the progress in this area to almost zero. It's an unfortunate situation that is creating a lot of frustration within the community. Even more concerning is that it appears the county will be enforcing increased ocean setbacks that are based on projected sea level rise estimates that could make it impossible for owners to rebuild. I personally am of the strong opinion that property owners should be allowed to rebuild within the same footprint they had before the fire. But at the very least, we need to make sure that the data the county is using to determine the new setbacks is accurate. There are a lot of people that believe this data could be flawed, and that the county could be overestimating the impacts of sea level rise that in turn affects the ability for Lahaina property owners to rebuild. In the description below, I'll share a link to a document that outlines this argument in great detail. If you're at all concerned with Lahaina's ability to rebuild, you should definitely take a look. Straight ahead, you're going to see the Puamana neighborhood. There were several buildings in Puamana that were lost in the fire, but there were also several in the community that survived the fire, and it's really nice to see increased activity here as well. We're now coming up on the far south end of Front Street, where it reconnects with the highway. From here, we're going to jump ahead to drive up Lahainaluna Road and take a look at the progress in that neighborhood. On the left-hand side, we're driving past the old Pioneer Mill smokestack right now. As we drive up the hill, you will notice more homes being rebuilt in this area. I'm going to share some updated statistics regarding the number of building permits approved in a second, but before I do, I'd like to address some criticism that I've received, mostly from another YouTuber, that's accused me of sugarcoating the reality of the situation in Lahaina. Ultimately, my goal with these videos is to provide a balanced and fact-based report without jumping to any wild conclusions. The truth of the matter is that it's not all rainbows and sunshine in Lahaina, but at the same time, it's not all doom and gloom. We are seeing progress, and every day seems to be better than the last. I am a naturally optimistic person, and I won't apologize for spreading a message that encourages hope and highlights the progress. But it is my promise to always keep it real in these videos, to the best of my ability. And that's why I like to simply record what I see so you can see it with your own eyes and make your own judgments. Later in the video, I'm going to drive through a portion of Front Street that has several restaurants and businesses that are open and have been for a long time, because it's important to report on the good things that are happening, not just the bad. So as we pass another home being rebuilt here on the right, let's go over some of the building permit statistics that are found on the Maui Recovers website. Out of the 1,568 properties that have completed the debris removal process, 368 have submitted building permits for review. Out of the 368 that have been submitted for review, 162 building permits have been approved and issued. And as you can see for yourself from this video, dozens of homes are currently under construction, but so far the county reports that only 3 homes have completed construction. I'm sure the number of completed homes will start to increase more rapidly just based on the amount of homes that we see have started to rebuild. Now, there are actually several more homes being rebuilt as we head down the hillside, but unfortunately at this point my camera overheated and cut out, so you won't see them in this video. Instead, we're going to jump over to another neighborhood that's seen a lot of progress. We're going to go explore the Wahikuli neighborhood. So we just turned off the main highway, and if you've driven through the middle of Lahaina town in the past couple of weeks, you've probably already noticed a lot of homes under construction on the hillside that you can see from the highway. By the way, if you appreciate the time and effort it takes to make these video updates on Lahaina's progress, make sure to hit the like button. And if you find them informative, share the video with someone else you know that could benefit from these updates. Since the fire started in California, I have noticed an increased interest in my past videos of Lahaina, especially my most recent drone tour. Our fire here in Lahaina happened about a year and a half before the LA fires, so I'm sure there's more interest in seeing our progress here as a way to anticipate how quickly recovery and rebuilding will happen in California. Of course, our situation here on Maui is different than California, as we do have an extra layer of logistical challenges because, well, we're located on an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. But I do think there will be a lot of similarities as well, especially given the similar politics and difficulties in getting permits, especially along the coastal areas. If you think it'd be helpful, I could release another video recapping our timeline to recovery here so far. Let me know in the comments if you think that'd be a helpful video, or if there are other topics that you would like me to discuss instead. One thing that we know that the Los Angeles area will struggle with, just like we did here, is a shortage of housing as people who lost their homes try to find a new place to live. That is an issue that we've been dealing with here on Maui since the fires. In some ways, we are fortunate to have had a lot of hotel rooms and short-term rental units that were able to temporarily house people until they find more long-term housing. Unfortunately, I don't think this is a luxury that the LA area has. And as we drive up the hill, we're actually headed towards a couple mid-term housing solutions that are being funded by the government. Above the old Wahikuli neighborhood, there are a couple temporary housing sites. One is being funded by FEMA and the other by the state. Combined, they will supply over 600 temporary homes with various sizes. You can see one of these temporary housing sites straight ahead now, but we will get a closer look from a different viewpoint just a little ways down the road. Another solution here on Maui has been the FEMA Direct Lease Program, where FEMA rents properties directly from owners, guaranteeing them that the rent will be paid. I did encourage several of my clients to join the program, and I actually have both of my properties that I own here on Maui in the program myself. So far, it has worked out great for both myself and the renters, and I was just notified that one of my leases will be extended for 6 more months. This program runs through February 10th, 2026, but I have heard that starting in March, all the direct lease tenants will need to start paying a portion of the rent. Straight ahead right now, we get a closer look at the state-funded temporary housing site. By the way, if you want a much clearer perspective of this area, make sure to watch my latest drone tour after you finish this video. Okay, from here we're going to head back down the hillside. And I'm actually going to jump ahead a little ways to go explore the portion of Front Street that survived the fire and has several restaurants and businesses open. Okay, so we're now driving right next to the Cannery Mall on the left-hand side and heading towards Front Street. I've had several people ask me what restaurants are open in Lahaina so they can go show their support, and this portion of the video will see a few. Straight ahead, you see Mala Tavern and Honu Restaurant, both of which are open, and we already passed the new restaurant called Coco Deck Lahaina, which was on the other side of the street. Star Noodle and Aloha Mixed Plate are also open in this area, and we're about to drive past the old Lahaina Luau, which is also open. The Cannery Mall that we just passed on the left-hand side is also fully open now, and they just opened a new food court. We just crossed over the Kahoma stream, and my old neighborhood, Kahoma Village, is on the left-hand side. We're going to drive through Kahoma Village in a couple minutes, because I do want to show you that we have started to rebuild the townhome buildings that were lost in the fire. But before we head there, let's go take a quick look at how busy the Mala boat ramp is today. You'll notice that there are some people heading over to enjoy some beach time at Baby Beach, and the parking lot here is pretty much full. I see a lot of empty boat trailers, which of course is a good sign. It's just really nice to see this area getting busy again, since we know the local economy could use the support. Okay, from here, we're going to jump back over to the Kahoma Village area and do a quick tour of this neighborhood before we finish the video over at Baby Beach. Now, if you've been subscribed to my channel, you already know that Kahoma Village, which is located in the middle of the burn zone, almost completely survived the fire. It is a newer neighborhood with underground power lines and more modern building materials, so those factors likely contributed to this being the neighborhood with the least amount of damage in Lahaina. That being said, there were a few townhome buildings that were burnt to the ground in the middle of the community. Now keep in mind that this is a special management area, but even with the added permitting requirements, I'm happy to report that the association did receive approved building permits and construction has already started. But you don't have to take my word for it. You see for yourself that there is a crane up that's flying materials into the worksite, and there are building materials being staged just outside the construction fence. We're going to wrap up the video with a clip from the Baby Beach access point that's just across from Kahoma Village. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for continued updates on Maui's recovery from the wildfires. And if you made it this far, thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. I hope to see you all in the next video. Aloha.